Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles. I am delighted to be joined by Curtis, who had a fantastically horrifying film, The Orchestra, which I thoroughly enjoyed every moment. But for those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at a clip. Curtis, I'm glad that we're bringing California and Chicago together in this virtual experience. Thanks for your thank you, and thanks for giving me nightmares as well at the same time. You did both. It was I love it. I'm a big fan already. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis of your film.
Awesome. Yeah, it's basically a short kind of like scene and moment in time where this young woman is just going into an empty orchestra hall. She's going to like early for like a practice or something, and she's just haunted by this unseen presence. And it's very kind of like, it plays out very simply like a single kind of scene. I like those little short films that are very atmospheric and straight to the point. And yeah, it was just like a great kind of little moment in time for me.
I'm always shocked when you can like get me in the gut in like seconds. Like that's always like, especially in something that's haunting. Like I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this. And it was brilliant. And then I'm like, why have we not seen this before? And then obviously it took you to Curtis to bring it to us. So dare I ask you where the inspiration come for you in creating this project? Hopefully not based on true experiences.
Yeah, I mean, well, luckily I actually have no musical talent whatsoever, despite the keyboard I realize is sitting behind me. But I've always found kind of like academic kind of institutions kind of naturally creepy, and then also like empty spaces that are supposed to be normally filled with people, like an auditorium, which is a little bit more relevant now because there's so many that are empty. Yeah. Just like kind of unsettling. I think the original idea came when I was just visiting home in Michigan. I was like visiting my brother and my sister-in-law, and we just saw a woman cross the street holding an instrument case, and kind of thought how like there should be like a horror movie centered in the kind of musical academic scene. That I think there's a lot, thematically and, aesthetically that you can unpack and explore there.
Yeah. No, I mean, just with the history of orchestra and the music in that come from these amazing orchestras as well, like it's centuries of history. And so
Yeah.
I was just enthralled just that you created this particular story. It was wonderful. Now the setting that you obviously this was a wonderful set that you created, and I just love even the color and production design that you kind of brought with us with it as well. When you're obviously creating in a very short period of time these very suspenseful moments, like how do you go about creating your set, because you really capture the atmosphere, and how was that whole experience from that first?
Well, I will say that finding the location was definitely like the hardest part of the whole experience, because we went to several like local universities and places like that. All of them wanted to charge us about $1,000 a day, which was way over our budget, obviously.
Hey.
So the auditorium and space that we used is actually a private high school in the suburbs outside of Chicago, Catholic school. And I think it's actually the same, I guess maybe don't quote me on this, but I think it's the same high school that Diablo Cody went to. Oh. But they had just redone this auditorium, and we definitely lucked out in some of the things that were like up on the grid. There was already this kind of blue hue light that was coming down, like washing over the entire stage. So we just utilized that and what was in the space already as much as possible, and then just pushed other kind of lighting and found some other, as far as production design, we didn't really even have a production designer. It was kind of just me and the other producers. Wow. Piecing things together and just like playing with what worked.
Yeah, no, you really captured this spooky atmosphere. It was really really good. I mean, again, when you're making a film that also doesn't include, a lot of dialogue, it's really about the sound design and the music and the kind of atmosphere that you incorporate. How do you go about? Obviously, you had a great person that led the story there. How do you go about directing your actors and kind of almost creating these moments, without any words as well, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like tricky. So obviously we had to go through the like the blocking a lot, and then
Yeah.
it was everything was really kind of working in tandem with the director of photography and the actor to like hit these kind of beats. So I think most of what we did was just in pre-production, as far as like mapping out our storyboards of knowing pretty much where we wanted to be like visually at every single moment and building that suspense over time. So Jillian, the actor, who did a great job with like all this kind of like subtle nuance. And again, since there is no dialogue, it was just all about her reactions to these like little things she's that aren't there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of lucked out in a lot of those aspects, but really just honed in on like the details and in mapping it out, I think.
What was the biggest challenge you had in making it, Curtis?
I guess probably the timeline. Just that we only shot for 2 days, and Jillian hates it when I say this, but our actor was only there one day.
What?
We filmed. We had like one kind of load-in prep day, and then we had our first day that we started shooting. We shot a lot of the cutaways first, and like her POV shots. And did some tests and VFX prep and stuff like that, of course. But then we only really had her for one day, so it was just really kind of cramming everything into that one day and getting all the coverage that I wanted. Because again, it's about building that emotional map throughout the film is all there is. So I just wanted to make sure we had as much coverage as we could. So of course we had to cut a couple of little minor things, but
Yeah. And
it all came together, thankfully.
so from start to finish, how long was the process of making this film for you?
Ooh, probably a couple months. I think. I mean, it's weird. I actually had the idea for like a feature version of the film first, and this kind of is the opening scene in a way. So I started developing that a little bit, and I was like, I wonder if I can make this thing that lives on its own. So I think actually, yeah, like probably like 3 months is when I like started like the initial like pre-production through production, and then we did have quite a bit of time, probably like 4 months or so of post-production and really honing in like the sound and music aspects, like you said, are obviously vital to making the whole thing work. So that took a lot more time.
Yeah, but I love that you put this. I mean, I really love when you can make such such a powerful story that's a short film, and produce, actually production wise, it's done inside a couple of days. Like, it's just so great what you can achieve, what you can actually make in just a couple of days of work, which is brilliant. And I think take the time to really understand, where you've got to obviously do the cutaways first is kind of hard, and then having to incorporate the performance perspective of it as well. So, well done on achieving that. And the thing about it is with a film such as yours is that you really want to feel that audience reaction, because it makes you realize like, oh, that's why I did this film. And for me, certainly, you should have seen me by myself, reacting to your film, just chilling. But basically, how has it been for you since you shared it with an audience? And we certainly loved having it with you at New Filmmakers LA.
It's been great. I mean, it's obviously things shifted in this back half of the year, or past 8 months or so. But New Filmmakers is actually like the end of our festival run. So I was really, really proud and excited to like end on such a wonderful high note. But we screened at, I've been very happy with our ability to screen at festivals that were like genre specific festivals, some great ones like Cinepocalypse, Nightmares, New York City Horror, but then also some great like non-genre festivals, because it's one of those films where it's a horror film, but it's not like gory. So I was like worried where it would fit, and it's like, does this other festival have like like a midnight block or whatever. But the response has been really great from all these non-genre festivals as well. And like, yeah, there's nothing like, seeing it with an audience, of course. And I'm really pleased with how everyone has responded to it.
Well, as I mentioned to you just prior to this interview, my only disappointment was that I wanted more. I was like, please, you've taken me into a world right now. And Curtis, I can't, tell you enough. Like, I have been waiting for a filmmaker to make a film about, which centers around an orchestra, because I just, having been in these environments myself, I know the history and how eerie and spooky it is anyway. Without even a story, being explained, it really just is. So, is there more coming? Is there more that stems from this?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, let me say it's great to hear that. I think that, speaking of the response from people, like the best responses I've gotten are from actual like people who study music and stuff in school, who have been like, yeah, those places are super creepy when you just walk in and no one's there. And I'm like, great, because I was guessing. But no, there's definitely more. So I'm actually like a few drafts into the kind of feature adaptation that I mentioned. And it's actually a second rounder at the Austin Film Festival, which is coming up or was just passed, depending on when this comes out.
Yeah.
But it's and also a finalist at a couple other festivals like Nightmares. But I'm trying to get that out and try and see who's interested and develop more. But I think there's definitely a lot of potential for a longer story. And I think there I get to unpack a lot of the thematic stuff that doesn't really shine as much in the short. I mean, I hope that there's a little bit of underlying stuff there, but as far as like the horrors of academia, and I think there's something to be said about a story about a young woman going to school who's terrorized by this unseen kind of presence, and then trying to convince other people that it's there, I think can be like really relevant and really interesting to see.
Oh yeah, and you can take it in so many different ways. I'm so excited for this. I'm really, really happy you're making this feature, because it's it's really nice when you've got a great story that you can just elaborate on in such a powerful way. For you as a filmmaker, I mean, you finished your festival run now. You've obviously roll with the punches of what this year has been brought, but it's great that you're getting success and allocated along the journey. But I'm just curious for any filmmakers out there, because I feel like you're a person that just goes out there and does it and makes it happen regardless of what stuff comes in your way. Do you have any advice you can maybe share with any filmmakers out there that kind of want to follow? Is there anything that you kind of go by that support you in your work and what you do as a creative person?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that I could say. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you just kind of have to like trust the process and like trust yourself as far as like what you're interested in. Like always be kind of like curious, but don't be too precious about all of your ideas. Like you have to trust the fact and trust the process. Like I said, that more ideas will come, and there will be lots of kind of things to develop moving forward. So I would recommend ultimately like having multiple projects kind of at different stages. It can be hard, obviously, and you don't want to like half-ass anything, but I think not knowing when things are going to stick, considering the climate, the safest and smartest thing to do, I would say, is to keep multiple fires burning and see where it goes.
That's really great advice. Actually, we don't really hear that often enough. But well, listen, thank you, Curtis. Thank you for the orchestra. We're looking forward to the feature version. But thank you for giving us a wonderful glimpse to what we're going to expect in the full feature. It's very exciting. And thanks for bringing it to NewFilmmakers LA.
Absolutely. Thank you.